Nigeria, Belgium, and Luxembourg are working on leveraging their strengths to boost trade. Nigeria's vast agricultural sector can supply Belgium's food processing industry, while Belgium's logistics expertise can enhance Nigeria's exports. Now, Luxembourg's financial hub can facilitate investments, fostering economic growth and cooperation between the three nations. So this morning in our studios, we have Nweke, consultant, Belgium-Luxembourg Business Forum. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much, Lekam, for having me.
Beautiful. And we also have Thomas de Beule, who is the Secretary General, Belgium-Luxembourg Business Forum. He's also right here live in our studios. Thank you so much for coming around.
Thank you.
So let me start with Collins. Now, Belgium, Nigeria, and Luxembourg are major players in specific sectors. When you talk about Belgium, you're looking at a leader in logistics, diamonds, and chemicals. Nigeria boasts a large and growing agricultural sector. And when you look at Luxembourg and the financial banking sector, fantastic. So how can these trends be leveraged for mutually beneficial trade?
So once again, Lekan, well, the philosophy here is use what you have to get what you don't have. Now, it's not like there is a total absence of all of this plethora of, services, goods, and expertise in all the countries, but it is about scale and about, the extent to which they are present. Like you rightly mentioned, take one instance, petrochemical. That is something that, Belgium is very much known for, and Nigeria has, over the years, been, a partner with Belgium in that regard, because, as you probably know, crude oil is being refined in Belgium and then shipped back to Nigeria. But that is now becoming, a story of the past, because, as you know, Dangote refinery is coming on board, and which means that the refining of oil in Nigeria would be scaled up. Now, does that mean that there aren't other opportunities? Absolutely not. And that is where the other sectors that you talked about, logistics, infrastructure, development, agriculture and all of that, that is where they now come in. So while we say that, oil is still relevant and people should transact, and are indeed transacting in them, Belgium has something to offer to Nigeria in the area of logistics, and Nigeria in the area of commodities, agriculture. You talked about diamond. Nigeria has a very large deposits of some of the, minerals that Belgium needs, to keep its market up and alive. So yes, a symbiotic relationship has been on. And, the forum that we are organizing is actually helping to accentuate those areas and get people transacting actively.
Okay, let me talk to Thomas now. Now, Thomas, we have a common place between Nigeria and Luxembourg in the area of the financial sector, the banking industry, the steel industry, and the industrial sector. Three critical areas that are said to be money spinners if the right kind of policies and investments come to these areas. Now, how do you think Luxembourg can rub off on Nigeria, looking at these three critical sectors?
Well, of course, if we are looking at Nigeria, Luxembourg, I think the aim there is to facilitate connections between Nigerian companies looking to have access to these financing groups. Of course, we have the European Investment Bank that is situated in Luxembourg. So these are all opportunities that we are bringing forward to the business forum that is happening in Brussels in September. And we are focusing on three economies. So on the one side, we of course have Nigeria, then we have Belgium, and then we have Luxembourg. So what we are doing is creating a bridge between these three economies and linkages between businesses. So what we will be focused on in the Business Forum in September in Brussels is to create B2B, B2G meetings for the Nigerian delegation that will be coming to Brussels in September. So of course, we have to see what is the interest of the Nigerian companies coming to Brussels to see how we can best support them with their business development, looking at the economies of Belgium and Luxembourg.
Okay. Now, Collins, we've talked about a couple of sectors, and we, of course, rolled out the potential and what it portends for these countries. Now, are there bureaucratic hurdles or inefficiencies hindering trade flows between these two countries, despite the strength of these sectors, if well harnessed?
Certainly. And that is on both sides. Now, let me begin with Nigeria, because that is where you have, the most hindrances. There is nobody who wants to be honest to himself that wouldn't admit that, Nigeria isn't one of those, difficult places to do business. So the ease of doing business is an issue, has been for quite a while, but obviously you ask yourself, even as difficult as it is to do business in Nigeria, how come, we still have a very good presence of foreign companies that are doing business here, and more actually coming in. The reason is simply because over the years, successive governments, particularly the current one, have shown very serious intentions, and indeed have put one or two things in place to ease doing business. I know for a fact that within the office of the vice president, there is a unit actually working on that, and organizing meetings and all of that. So yes, that is an issue. One of the things that people talk about, especially when we go into the area of non-oil export, is certification. Okay, people talk about the fact that the bar is so very high that Nigerian commodity traders find it difficult to meet the standards set by Belgium and the EU. That is not entirely correct. The reason it's not correct is that what you don't know surpasses you. And so one of the things that the Business Forum is doing is actually laying bare what the guidelines are, what the procedures are. But not just laying them bare, we are also bringing on board expertise, the people who have the skills and the knowledge to guide you through the step after giving you all the information that you need. So no, it is not insurmountable. It is just that you have to have the right information to know what to do and what not to do. And also on the Nigerian side, because there have been Belgian companies that complain of having their fingers burnt in the past and have actually retreated. Now, they still continue to see the figures rolling out of Nigeria, beautiful figures that presents huge opportunities for them. And so they want to re-engage. This time around, they are taking very serious care, and that is why we're bringing on board lawyers on both sides, both on the Nigerian side and on the Belgian side. Thomas, for instance, is the COO of an international law firm in Antwerp, Belgium. They stand ready to guide people through those legislative guidelines that will help them to surmount some of the difficulties on both sides.
Oh, Collins, we talked about the figures that seem to be attractive to investors and would-be partners, but then we see a Nigerian economy that has dropped the ball from being the first or the largest economy in Africa to now drop into around the fourth in Africa, with South Africa taking the first. We've seen the economy that with government policies, as of course, according to stakeholders and economists, are said to be rash and brash, are negatively affecting the growth that we should have seen in the Nigerian economy. And when you look at other sectors of the economy, you discover that it's quite erratic. People cannot predict, investors cannot predict, they cannot be sure that when they put their investment in these sectors, they'll be able to recoup on their investments. So how attractive would you say the figures are when we have these lingering challenges as we see resurfacing in the Nigerian economy?
Leka, when you look at, the short term, I mean the figures, the recent figures, which as a matter of fact, economists have looked at and said that these are shock therapies. These are shock reactions to, what is perceived to be long-term policies that will ultimately begin to deliver the dividends. Now, the short-term, effect that they are having is some of these, more challenges that businesses have got to face. But you see, the message, the gospel to be preached here is the fact that these have not come to stay. These are short-term, impacts, short-term shocks. And as business, you need to have a growth strategy that looks at not just the short term, but the mid-term. And when you approach it from that perspective, you see a reason to keep the faith. You see a reason to actually, go for the long-term impact rather than looking at, just the short-term effect of, policy changes.
All right, Collins, we definitely look at the growth strategy that you talked about, but let's quickly go on a break. When we return, we'll talk to Thomas, something that has to do with renewable energy, ICT, and creatives, which is a strong forte for Nigeria also, and we'll look at what growth or benefits can come from that. We're going to a break. We'll be right back. You're watching Business Edge, and we have been taking a look at the investment opportunities that international investors can tap into. And we've been looking at it from the angle of Belgium, Luxembourg, and Nigeria, three countries that are showing interest in synergizing their economic potential to bring about a benefit for them. And we have been talking to Collins Nweke, who is the consultant, Belgium-Luxembourg Business Forum, and Thomas de Beule, who is the Secretary General, Belgium-Luxembourg Business Forum. So let me quickly bring Thomas into this discussion now. You've talked about a few areas that you know that Luxembourg can bring about some economic growth to Nigeria, and there can be some sort of synergy and benefits for mutual benefits for the two countries. Now, beyond that, are there emerging areas like renewable energy, the ICT, creative industries, these three strong areas that Nigeria is also hoping to leverage to also scale up its economic potential between Belgium, Luxembourg, and Nigeria?
Well, definitely. If you look at these three sectors that you just mentioned, first of all, we have to look at Nigeria. You have a very young population, so you have a workforce that is ready, that is available. And of course, looking at renewable energy, we will be thinking about solar energy. Nowadays, you have large corporations having solar panels on all of their production facilities and so on. So you need a workforce to make those installations. Same looking at ICT. You need high-tech qualified workforce that you have here readily available in Nigeria. So I think when we look at the companies coming from Belgium, coming from Luxembourg, what we encourage them is to set up locally in Nigeria. Because I think as a company, if you are serious about Nigeria, you have to look at setting up a local company, having a director, having a local team. So I think definitely these are key sectors where we see growth for investment, growth for business. And I think you also have to take into consideration that most European companies, they are first looking at trading with a country and then looking how the volumes grow. And of course, if it makes sense for them to set up something locally, they will do that. And then also with the chamber that is organizing the business forum, CBL-ACP, we have a local representative here in Nigeria, so we can assist our members and our partners when they are looking to do business or invest in Nigeria.
Thomas, you agree with me that we have infrastructural gaps in Nigeria. When you look at the ICT sector, the penetration level is poor. The connectivity is also not encouraging. You look at the renewable energy sector and you see that it's in its infant stage because the Nigerian government is just about tinkering with, transitioning into renewable energy. And when you look at the creative industry, the structure is not so robust. So aren't these challenges that might discourage investments or these countries, most especially Belgium and Luxembourg? Wouldn't that, somehow discourage them from wanting to partner with Nigeria?
Well, of course, where people see, I would say, issues and gaps, we as a chamber, we see opportunities because we have been at that stage in the past in our economies in Belgium and Luxembourg. So we know how to overcome those gaps. So I would say for our Belgium, Luxembourg companies, they look at it in a different way. They look at the situation here in Nigeria and say, okay, this is how it's being done at the moment. This is what we can bring in. This is the R&D, this is the technology that we can bring in to make sure that those gaps are overcome. So of course we have to face the reality that there are gaps there, but for us, how we present it to our companies that, look, there's an opportunity for your company to come in, provide your services, your technologies, and so on. But what we always stress them is that when you are serious about a country like Nigeria, you have to think about having a local entity so you can really penetrate the market, have your own workforce, have a, let's say, after-sales team to make sure that you connect with your customer base and you build a long-term relationship. So I would rephrase it in opportunities to provide, quality ICT, and that's across the board of all the sectors that were highlighted earlier on.
All right, Collins, earlier on you talked about growth strategy. Let's trim that down to the agricultural sector in Nigeria, because we know that Nigeria has a vast base in that. Now, in terms of expertise and technology, what kind of growth strategy do you think can come into play there to improve the value chains along that line and, of course, increase the export volume that can be done looking at that particular sector in terms of products and what can be produced?
Very important question. Thank you, Lekan, for throwing it up. As a matter of fact, Thomas talked about the fact that some of the challenges that are currently being faced in Nigeria are things that Belgium and Luxembourg had faced in the past. But of course, the world is moving at a very, very alarming speed. Take, for instance, the deployment of technology in agriculture, the use of drones to dictate, infections and all of that. Even the use of drone for weeding. They are being deployed in Belgium and Luxembourg at the moment. The technology is there locally, manufactured and all of that. Now, we also know that even in Belgium, these are deployed by, the large-scale rich farmers. But there is also this model, you can call it a cooperative model, where, such services are offered to the smallholders, okay? No, there is nothing stopping anyone, from actually transferring such technology in Nigeria when we are now talking of scaling up the agricultural base. Things like the technology to dry products and make them ready for the European market, like Thomas talked about. It is not about, exporting raw materials out of Nigeria after the agricultural process, but actually processing them here in Nigeria. Even if it means have processing before they are now, in terms of the raw materials, before they are now shipped to, the destination countries for use in production services. So, essentially, the two major opportunities that come up here is the use of the well-advanced research and development technology, and that is where, university exchanges, okay, actually comes in. Because in the universities in Belgium, Leuven, for instance, specifically University of Ghent, they have a well, marked out department that does on that. So linkages between university can create such opportunities, and then in the marketplace itself, okay, those ones that have been deployed as a consequence of the machineries that have been produced can actually be, brought to Nigeria to help the farmers. And what else than, a business forum such as the one taking place in Belgium in September that we are actually on the ground to promote, to take opportunities, in creating that very much needed linkages for those that are in that space.
Okay, so finally, Thomas, quickly your reaction. What are your expectations? We know that this forum will be robust, there will be a lot of engagement and networking. What are your thoughts? What are your expectations?
Yes, well, I think first we have to look at the last edition. We had our last edition last year, where it was very successful. We had more than 200 participants in total for the Luxembourg and Belgium event. So what we had 30 to 40 Nigerian companies that came last year. So of course we are doing the same thing. I think even bigger this year, because as mentioned before, it's been organized by our chamber, CBL ACP. just to know, it's the biggest chamber on Africa in Belgium and Luxembourg. So I would say our real focus for this business forum in September in Brussels is to create the linkages. Is companies that come on board today, we'll get their profile, we'll ask them, who do you want to meet, what are your targets, and we start engaging companies in Belgium, preparing the B2B, the B2G, so that they can already link up and talk to each other, have their video calls. So when they come in September, they're not strangers, and hopefully they will be signing deals, contracts, MOUs, and so on. So our aim is to really to have a result-driven business forum, not just to have speeches and presentations. We really want the companies to have concrete engagements, have company visits, visiting Belgian companies, Luxembourg companies. So I would say our view is very positive, and that's why we are here this week in Nigeria. We're having two high-level receptions with the Embassy of Belgium here in Nigeria, which we'll be having one this evening here in Lagos, and we'll have one later on in Abuja. So we are very positive for the outcome of the Business Forum in September.
Okay, Thomas de Beule, Secretary General, Belgium-Luxembourg Business Forum, Collins Nweke, Consultant, Belgium-Luxembourg Business Forum. Thank you so much for your time, and I must say, happy deliberations.
Thank you so very much, Nweke, and thank you for having us.
Thank you.